This is where my mother was found buried. I have come out to this location a few times. Never ever forget you. I know there's a part of you in my heart. That's something that nobody will be able to take away from me. I'm trying to be a good mum, because I know you were. I just don't understand why. After the police had finished their inquiries at Cromwell Street, each of the children, not the children that were in care, but each of the children were asked if there was things that they wanted, belongings that they wanted from the home, because Cromwell Street, all that's there is a shell. There is nothing inside at all, no furnishings. We were all asked if we wanted to go to where the items of 25 Cromwell Street were stored, if there was anything that we felt that belonged to us. I said yes, I would like to go. And I remember as they opened these two big metal doors, I remember standing there and looking at the contents and feeling saddened, because what was in this room was 30 years of my life. My growing up, my past, my childhood. It's there. And I was looking at it thinking, there's nothing of any consequence. There was items in there that caused me to shudder somewhat because of the bad memories. If anybody had gone in there, they would have thought, well, these are items for a jumble sale. And I didn't feel that I'd achieved anything. That it was just bits and pieces. I attended the court hearings for my father and my stepmother on numerous occasions. I remember the first time I went into the court, they brought my stepmother up from downstairs first. Then my father came up and there were some police women, prison officers were with next to my stepmother, and my father was stood up and he was looking at Rosemary, and she did glance at him, and he leant forward to touch her, and I heard him say, "How are you, Rosemary?" And she completely ignored him. And then the officers intervened, and Dad was crying because she just turned her back on him. I was so close to my father and stepmother. I could have reached out and actually touched them. That's how close I was. I was sat there and I couldn't believe the people that were stood in the dock. I knew, not just as friends, but actually knew them as being my father and stepmother. I remember I went to stand up and I couldn't, my legs just gave way. And when we had to stand up for the judge to leave the room, I was physically being held up under my arms by police officers that attended with me because I just couldn't stand, my legs had just completely gone. My dad said to me that Rosemary had killed Charmaine and put her in a septic tank because I remember there was a garage at the back of the house and somebody was wanting to lease the garage, so it had to be tidied out. And Dad said that Rose became quite agitated. And he sort of said, "Oh, what's the matter with you, woman?" And she then said that Charmaine was in there and that he would have to help, he'd have to help dispose of Charmaine. He said that he didn't have any involvement with Charmaine, and he did say that it was Rosemary that had done it. I believe the only reason that I'm here is because I was a coward. I never stood up to them. I never rebelled. I always did as I was told. I wish deep down that I hadn't been so gutless, that I stood my ground. I love my dad a lot, and my dad would say to me that these things were happening to make me a better person, and that he loved me and he wouldn't hurt me, and that Rosemary loved me in her own way. I stayed there because my younger brothers and sisters would get hit, and I would shield them. I would stand in front and take the punishment for them.
I've got some of the artwork that I was going to show you. It's just a rough cover so far, and like I told you before, we suggested Out of the Shadows.
My children are very young. They don't understand what's going on and what all the upheaval is about and why. When my children get older and they feel that they maybe are old enough to understand or to hear some of the things that went on in my childhood, with a book being there, it's the nearest that I can give them to the truth. And people have said how lucky I am. I don't feel lucky. I try to focus on what's happening. And people ridicule me. They point at me. They say things about me. But yet nobody will come to see me as a person. They think I'm going to be like my dad. When, if anybody has come to me, they've said, "Well, you're not like that." And I think, like what? What am I supposed to be like? I'm me. I can only be me. But people automatically think that I'm going to attack them or I'm going to hurt them. And the worst thing is that when I'm out with my children and I'm at town, and people are stopping and pointing at me, and I got my girls with me, and I think, can't you just stop and think how we're feeling? We've lost a lot of things. Yes, that was my dad, he done that. I admit, we know that. But please try to give me a chance. I've lost my life. Since all this has come, I've lost my life. I'm getting to where I don't know who I am.